Good morning, everyone. Today I will be interviewing a German soldier of the Kriegsmarine U-boat force, Mr. Friedrich Schaffer. Good morning, Mr. Schaffer. Thank you for coming here today.
It is my pleasure.
Let's begin by introducing yourself.
My name is Friedrich Schaffer. I am a surviving crew member of the Kriegsmarine U-boat force and served in World War II during the Battle of the Atlantic.
Tell me a little bit about your childhood.
I was born in 1924 in Bremen, Germany with my mother, who was a single parent since World War I when my father heroically died in the Battle of the Somme. I am an only child and had to help my mother tremendously. When I was 18 years old, I decided to enlist in the German army to follow my father's footsteps and to financially support my mother and myself. However, my mother did not want me to leave her because she was afraid that she would lose me as well, so I changed my mind and chose to stay with my mother.
Then how did you become a part of the Kriegsmarine U-boat force?
About 4 months later, I got drafted as a seaman, so it was required for me to join.
How were you trained and prepared for the battle?
We first learned basic military training skills like marching and shooting, which took 3 months in Germany. After these 3 months, we were spread to different learning paths. I was drafted to the U-boats and then attended U-boat training schools where we received 3-hour lectures on different U-boat subjects such as attack tactics and weaponry. Although the trainings were really strict, it prepared us to fight in the war.
How did you feel about becoming a Kriegsmarine U-boat crew member?
Though I was proud to fight alongside the Germans, I was not very happy. I made many friends during the trainings and they all told me about how terrible the living conditions are inside the U-boat, so I was not as excited as everyone else. Most of all, I missed my mother and always worried for her.
Which U-boat were you assigned to and when did it get launched and commissioned?
I was assigned to the U-300 with our commander being Oberleutnant Fritz Hein. The U-300 was launched on November 23, 1943 and was commissioned on December 29, 1943.
How many seamen were on the U-300 and what was your role as a seaman on the U-boat?
There were about 25 other seamen on the U-300. Our roles were to act as the watch crew on deck, man the guns, load the torpedoes, prepare food from the gallery, and take care of daily operations aboard the U-boat. Our workload was divided into 3 8-hour shifts, one for sleeping, one for regular duties, and one for miscellaneous tasks.
What was it like inside the U-boat? What were the living conditions like?
It was very fascinating and exciting at first, but after a couple days, it was very unpleasant for many reasons. Firstly, fresh water was limited and strictly rationed for drinking. Washing, showering, and changing clothes were not permitted, so deodorant was used to control body odor. This led to constant outbreaks of different types of skin diseases. There was also no privacy as the U-boat was packed in such a confined space. We slept in the loading torpedo room with limited bunks, and even simple actions like going to the washroom was difficult. The food was actually pretty good compared to what other German soldiers ate. However, after a couple days, the fresh food spoiled quickly and sprouted fuzzy white fungi from exposure to diesel fumes and being stored in a damp environment, and so we then ate canned food and lemons to prevent scurvy. Many of us were even infected with crabs.
How did you spend your free time in the U-boat?
It was very boring in the U-boat since it was cramped and there was not much to do. I would usually just make conversations with other seamen or read a book.
What was the strategy of the German U-boats?
We were under the command of Admiral Dunis, who developed a great strategy, which was hunting in wolf packs. We would travel with a group of other U-boats and stretch out across suspected convoy routes. When one of us spotted a convoy, the rest of the wolf pack would gather and assemble to intercept the oncoming ships. We would wait for darkness and then attack all at once using torpedoes to rip into the ship simultaneously.
What was the purpose of attacking these convoys?
Because Britain is an island nation, cutting them off from overseas supplies would give us a huge advantage since they rely on other countries such as Canada to send them supplies that included food, weapons, and more. We were determined to starve the British into submission.
Did you sink any Allied ships?
Yes, we sank 3 ships and damaged 1. Our first attack was almost a year after we departed from Germany.
How did you feel when you finally sunk an Allied ship?
I was overjoyed. We were all feeling hopeless for quite a while, but after we sunk our first ship, we celebrated, and for the first time since entering the U-boat, we were all extremely happy. This excitement faded away after a couple days.
What happened on Black May?
On May 1943, the sinking of the Allied ships continued to decline, and the greatest losses suffered by U-boats occurred during that time. Admiral Nimitz was shocked by this loss, including his son's death, and so he ordered a temporary halt and the U-boats retreated from the Atlantic.
How did you feel during the Black May period when the tide began to turn in favor of the Allies?
Most of us were very confused and outraged. It was very frustrating for us since the Allies were not making any more mistakes. We were certain for failure. I was enlisted into the Kriegsmarine around that time, so I did not know much about it. I was still terrified and felt hopeless, especially after hearing two officials talking as if we had already lost the battle.
Were there any casualties or attacks on the U-300?
We were only attacked once by 3 depth charges from a Canadian flying boat on August 4, 1944. We were also very lucky because unlike many other U-boats, the U-300 did not suffer any casualties before it sank. Our U-boat sunk on February 22, 1945 in the North Atlantic west of Cadiz, Spain after being badly damaged by depth charges from a British armed yacht. Out of about 50 crew members, 41 of us survived.
Why do you think the Germans lost this battle?
We lost this battle because of many reasons. The Allies significantly improved their submarine tracking tactics and technology, they became better trained and more experienced, and their Navy and Air Force had grown to protect more of their convoys. The Royal Navy also undertook more aggressive tactics. They formed elite hunter groups of anti-submarine ships to search the ocean for U-boats and to aid the convoys that were under attack. Also, the number of U-boats in service was very limited. Admiral Nimitz had wanted 300 U-boats for the war, but when the war began, the German Navy only had 56 U-boats with only 24 of them ready for operations in the ocean. Hitler also did not think that it was very important to establish superiority at sea, so the Kriegsmarine did not get the deserved respect or support from him. He disregarded and underestimated the necessity of sea power.
Thank you for letting me interview you today. I am truly honored.